Well, I was supposed to be studying Greek participles. I was sitting in the library at Dallas Theological Seminary getting ready for finals, but I could not focus on that. Pulled up on my computer were pictures of diamond rings, and I was analyzing cut and clarity and all the different facets of what the right ring to get was because I had been dating Donna for a while and it looked like this thing was going to go somewhere. So I started making phone calls in the break room about how long does it take to get a ring. I kind of assumed it would take 6 months, and then maybe we'd be engaged 6 months, so maybe we get married in a year. And I'll never forget when that guy told me, give me 2 days. I was like, excuse me, what? He said, 2 days. And I realized I could have a ring in 2 days. I could be married in a few months. And I remember looking into a mirror at that point and asking myself, Ben, are you ready for this? Are you really ready to cash out of singleness? And I remember the resolve rising deep within me that said, yes, I'm ready. Now, the $1,000,000 question is, how did I know that? And I get asked that question all the time. How do you know when you know you got the right person? So we're talking about engagement, the union of two lives. And there's so much we could say about it. In engagement, you're not just uniting two individuals, you're uniting their families, you're uniting your finances, you're uniting your futures. And there's whole books dedicated to this one critical stage, but I want to talk about aspects of this stage that kind of dovetail into all the ones we're talking about, which is, what are the things I should see in a relationship that give me confidence that this is the right one and that it's strong? And we're going to look at 5 things that mostly rise out of the book of Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon is the great love book in the Old Testament. It's by or about Solomon as it talks about his courtship and marriage to the Shulamite, and it's a celebration of a relationship done right. And the first thing we see about the relationship is there is excitement. And that's what you should have. You should feel excitement. The book kicks off with the Shulamite saying, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. That right at the very beginning, you see she's excited. She's looking at this man and saying, I want his mouth on my mouth. She's infatuated, and that's not wrong to feel that way. But then when you look at what has got her so excited about this guy, she says, your anointing oils are fragrant, which could mean that his cologne game was strong. But she goes on and says, your name is like oil poured out. Your name is your reputation. It's what people think about when they hear your name. And she's saying, what gets me excited about this man is his character has a sweetness to it. There's something beautiful about the way he treats people. He's a good man. Looks and beauty will fade, but you want someone that is good. Let character be what gets you excited. And then you look and say, he's excited too. He says later, behold, here comes my beloved, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills. He stands behind our wall, peeking through the lattice. You see, as he shows up, he's excited to see her. And he says, arise, my beloved, my beautiful one. And that word beloved is the word rayati. He looks at her and says, arise, and he calls her a word that could be translated companion or friend. That what gets him excited is not just her character, but also her kindness. She's like a friend to me. She calls him Dodi. That means companion, someone who's close to me. That what should excite you about a relationship is this person has character, they are good, and this person is kind. They treat me with gentleness. This is the kind of person I'd want my children to look like and that I could see myself walking with right up until the very end of our lives. But you see that there's not just an excitement, you also see that there's life. There's life. That as he speaks to her, he says, arise, my beautiful one, come away. The winter is past, the rain is gone, the flowers have appeared, the fig tree ripens, and he compares their love to the springtime. And that's how you should feel, that the result of time together for us is that we feel an explosion of life. And that's what we should see in your relationship. Are you better as a result of being around each other? Do you spur one another on towards love and good deeds? Do you encourage one another to seek God in new ways? Are you the best version of yourself as a result of being around this person? We get confidence that you're with the right person when we see your excitement, but when we also see life. You are both better as a result of this union. The next thing we see that's critical, though, as you see a relationship approaching the moment of engagement in marriage, is we should see a strong sense of commitment. A strong sense rising up in each of you of commitment. She says later in the book, "Set me as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death, jealousy as fierce as the grave." And you say, what does that mean? How is love like death? Well, death, when it grabs a hold of someone, does not let go. It commits. And love is the same way. Love says, for better or for worse, in sickness or in health, I'm not going anywhere. Love commits. It has a resolve to stay even when it's hard. And you should see that in your relationship. As you're dating and spending time with each other and hanging out, inevitably you're going to hit a moment of conflict. You're going to disagree about something relatively important. And at that moment, it's going to be critical to look and say, what's happening now? As we hit this moment of friction, we don't really see an immediate way out of. Do I feel rising up in me, I knew this relationship was wrong. I knew this was a mistake. Or do we feel rising up, hey, I want to get through this. I want to get back to unity. I want you. For me, I was the last person in my friendship group to get married. And I remember as I asked all of them, how do you know when you know? All of them said to me, Ben, you just know. What you know, if someone's ever said that to you, that is colossally unhelpful information. So I would press them. And I remember pressing one of them and he said, you know, Ben, there were times we disagreed and there was times it was very hard. But what I saw was we both wanted to work through it. We wanted to get past the disagreement and back towards unity. And that made me feel like we're both committed to this relationship. When you get married, you will stand on a stage and in front of God and everybody, you will say, I promise to love you for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And you want those words to be a reflection of what you feel inside, because they certainly won't conjure that level of commitment. So before you sign on to a relationship, you need to see a growing resolve to stay, even when it's hard. You want to see commitment. But not just an internal sense of commitment, you need the growing skill of communication. You need to be able to talk to each other, to reach deep into your heart and to share the deep things and to understand each other, empathize, and grow together. You need the skill of communication, particularly when you disagree. The book of Proverbs in chapter 12 says, there is one whose rash words are like the thrust of a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. What happens when you disagree? Does that person lash out with harsh words? Do they go for the kill? Are they just looking for victory in the argument? Or do they freeze you out and shut you out that you don't know what's going on? That's not a healthy way to communicate, and you need to pause. You need someone that when you feel hurt, they stop everything and they look for understanding. You need someone that will hear what you're saying, even if you stumble over your words, to try to talk about what's in your heart, and they can hear what you're really feeling, and they work not just towards victory, but towards unity. They say, I don't want to hurt you. I want to get to resolution. You want to have a growing skill of communication. Can we speak to one another in a way that promotes healing, not hurting? Solomon was great at this. You see in the book that they disagreed, but rather than lash out against her, he responds with sweetness. And as he does that, Proverbs says, that gentle tongue is like a tree of life. Can I speak gently with each other? I know for Donna and I, what helped us in doing this is we made a resolution with each other. We will never assume the other person's motive, because I can't know that. So if you've hurt me, I'm going to stick to the 2 data points I know, what you did or said and how I feel. So if we're in a conversation, I say, hey, when you said that, it made me feel embarrassed and it made me insecure. insecure. The way you made fun of me made me feel like I can't trust you with deep things, and I don't want to feel that way. If I can say it that way, she can say, I don't want to make you feel that way. How can I say things differently? How can I not do that again? What we don't do is say, why are you trying to make me look stupid? Why are you trying to embarrass me? I'm not doing that because that assumes her motive, and I'm not going to do that. I stick to the observable data. When you said this, I felt this way. I don't want you to feel that way. What can I say differently? How can I say it differently that promotes our unity? Because I don't just want victory in an argument. I want unity in a relationship. And so I need not just the resolve to commit, but I need the skill to communicate. Can we talk in a way that strengthens our bond of unity? And then the last thing you need is to survive a moment of confession. To survive a moment of confession. That what's going to happen as you begin to date someone and you get to know each other, you're going to start to feel, you know what, this may be a relationship that could go the distance. And when that happens, you're going to want to share more of yourself, and then that's going to get you in a place that feels very vulnerable. In the book of Song of Solomon, he compares her to a dove high up in the cleft of a rock, a place of security for an animal that's fragile. But he calls her forward. "Oh, my dove in the cleft of the rock, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice." He calls her out, and it's a vulnerable, tender moment. Can I share with you some places that I've been hurt? Can I share with you some things I've done that I'm embarrassed about? You're going to get to a moment in a relationship where you need to talk. Hey, there's some things that happened to me in my past that are probably going to affect the way we communicate, and I need you to know these. There's some things I've done I'm not proud of, and I need to share them with you. Some of you may hear that and you go, I don't want to share that stuff. That's my business. But the whole reason you get married is so you can be fully known and fully loved. Proverbs 28 says this, "Whoever conceals his transgression will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them finds mercy." And that's what you want. Now, let me encourage you, don't do this on date one. Don't share the deepest, most broken places with somebody that's a solid maybe about whether or not they want to hang out with you. I'm talking about months in, you're right on the edge of getting engaged or married. You may need to sit down and not drag this out, but have a conversation where you say, I need to share with you some things about my past that are very vulnerable for me. Because here's what's going to happen. When you share those weak places and those broken places, if that person's anything like Jesus and you don't conceal those transgressions, you say, I'm not proud of this, what's going to happen? If they have a heart like Jesus, you're going to find mercy. They might weep with you. They'll say, I'm sorry that happened to you. They'll say, I forgive you. They'll say, I love you. They'll say, if that's the worst, I still want you. And when someone can look you in the eye and say, I've heard the worst things about you and still want you, let me tell you something. That's going to give you a strong bond of safety. This person wants all of me, and that will strengthen your union. Don't have a conversation like this on date one, but as you get closer on and you start to see, I have a resolve of commitment to this person. We have good communication. Then let me start to confess some things. And when they're like Jesus, forgive you, love you, even in the hardest places, you're going to have a marriage that's meant to be a picture of how Jesus loves the church. This person sees the best of me and worst of me and loves me anyway. That is amazing. And in the Song of Solomon, it ends where she says, I am my beloved's and he is mine. We commit to one another fully, and that's a place where there's an explosion of life. And that's what you want. You want commitment, communication, and confession that gives an explosion of life and excitement because you know I found the right one.